Okay, so hi everyone. I am Manan Maini. I am an engineer scholar interviewing Samhita Gopal Rao. She is a engineer scholar for year 2020 and has graduated her undergrad school a year ago. So, like, it would be great if you can introduce yourself. That would be better.
Absolutely. Hi everyone, I'm Samhita Gopal Rao. I was an ex-junior scholar in 2020. I graduated from Knox College last year, and I was a psychology and creative writing double major.
That's really cool. Like, yeah, creative writing sounds cool to me because,
Mhm.
like, yeah, I always struggle with that, but it's fine. So, like, what were your inspirations to the dream of studying in US? Like, what were your things? What
Um,
focused you?
yeah. So I think that one of the primary reasons I decided to study in the US was because I wanted to do a very creative program. I wanted to, have a more flexible program the way that
Hmm.
liberal arts colleges allow you to versus in an Indian college. You don't get to pick your own classes. You don't get to,
Yes.
pick your own schedule. You don't get to take really creative classes. So I think for me, the creative writing course was the primary reason why I chose to go to the US for sure.
Okay. And like, what drew you to choose your major? Like, you did psychology and English double, right? So, what chose you to like? What was your interest in that major in particular?
So I think that generally, with psychology, both of them had different reasons. So with
Hmm.
psychology, I my dad had this huge collection of psychology textbooks in his bookcase, and I loved stealing books from my dad's bookcase. So I would steal his psychology books and read them, and I just thought that they were the most interesting things I had ever read. Um, when I was younger, my mom picked me up a book about writing, a mystery novel, because I loved reading mystery novels, and I also loved writing, which is where the creative writing major came in. But that book about writing mystery novels told me like how to think from someone else's perspective, and I thought that psychology really helped me do that. I think eventually it became more, it's a career where you can actually help people and make a difference in whatever part of psychology you choose, right? Whether you choose therapy, but also if you do research and then make the world a slightly easier place, even for one person, that would be so great.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of how it went. The progression was very, creative writing first, psychology second. And then when I went to college, I just fell in love with psychology so much. It became psychology first and everything else next.
That really sounds interesting. Like as you mentioned before, you went to US because of the liberal arts education style. So can you explain what a liberal arts education means to you and how it shaped your academics and personal growth?
For sure. So I think that the most important part about the liberal arts for me was flexibility. I think that growing up in an Indian educational system, sometimes it feels a little constricting. And even though I have always enjoyed my education, I never, I've been very fortunate to, have teachers who really encouraged me, have peers with whom I really enjoyed
Hmm.
discussing my materials. It's just, I wanted something that challenged me slightly more. Um, and with a liberal arts education, it's just so interesting what you can do because one minute you're sitting in a class about writing poems, and then the next minute I'm sitting in a neuroscience class talking about, brain chemicals. And it's just that meld of topics that you're discussing just really helps you become, I think it helps you become a very well-rounded professional. I think that, in my work currently, it really helps to be able to switch between different skills. It really helps to switch between different knowledge databases. So it's just, I think as a whole, it's just made me a much more well-rounded individual, but also a very well-rounded professional in the work environment as well.
Okay, like, that's a good inspiration which people could hear. And like, what made you choose your current college, like the college from which you did undergrad, and what stood out about it to you?
So to be honest, at the beginning, when I looked at the list of colleges on the Next Genius list of college list that they provide you in a spreadsheet, I did not recognize any of the names on the list. And
Hmm.
honestly, I was just there for the scholarship. As most of us are, we all look at that list and we're like, tell me where you can give me the most money, I will be. But then I think that they also have this really helpful column where they talk about what majors are the strongest in each college. And I picked a couple of places that had creative writing and psychology both in their strong majors list. And Knox was one of those colleges. And even though I had no genuine preference for where I really wanted to be, I put Knox as my first preference and then I got it. And I was just really happy because I was like, hey, I feel so honored that I got my
Hmm.
first preference, and this place has a great creative writing and psychology program. But what really stood out to me was when I did the Next Genius Scholarship program, they used to do it in person, like our interviews and our pre and post reception. So all of this used to happen online right before the pandemic. And at the pre-reception, we met with our admissions counselor. And he gave us this little presentation about Knox College. And I knew nothing about Knox. I knew nothing about the city that we were in.
Hmm.
I knew it was in Illinois. That was also one of my selling points. For some reason, I've been really drawn to Chicago since I can remember. And one of my selling points was that it was in Illinois. But then he showed us this YouTube video about like 100 reasons to be at Knox College. And it just takes you through like this video of that city. It's just such a small town. It's such a cozy town, but it's also such a small college. And you can really tell
Hmm.
that community means everything at Knox. And it's just something about watching that video made me realize I can see myself there. And I decided, you know what? I don't care where else I get acceptances from. This is it for me.
That yeah, that is really good thing. Like a YouTube video drawn your interest towards the
Yeah.
college. So, like as you told, you were down towards Chicago. So, like, how has the community of your college changed you and influenced your experience? And especially in terms of diversity and inclusion, because there are a lot of students in India which feel like will they be able to compete the students in America, or like how will they able to talk to them? Something like that.
Um, well, I would start with the fact that most American colleges whose culture I have seen have a huge international student presence,
Yeah.
whether it's within their alumni, their current students, their prospective students. There's so many people from different countries in the world wanting to be there. And I think that end up there because, as international students, I think we have a really strong background in terms of academics and we fit in really well academically. So that's the first
Hmm.
thing that I'd answer if there's any students that are worried about fitting in academically in the US. I think that our education system prepares you really well
Hmm.
for
Yes.
anything that your American college is going to throw at you. Because I remember
Hmm.
there were days where potentially my more local friends would be sitting going, oh my God, why are there so many assignments? And I'd be on a phone call with my friends in India saying, I only
It's
had
nothing.
4 classes this week. What am I doing? You know? So it's just
Yes.
academically, it's a great fit, but also culturally, it's such a good fit. I think that India is more global than we realize sometimes. So when you step out of India and you're talking to other people, you realize that our culture has really prepared you to go with the flow anywhere.
Yeah, like I can also see that. I can experience that. Like I am there in the college right now. It's been 1 year only, and I feel like I have been settled in the community. And about the academics also, like that same experience had happened with me. And they were like, I was just talking with my friends, like how in during our final exams we used to study 12 hours a day. And my American friends, one of my roommate is American, so like he was just shocked. How are you able to study 12 hours a day?
Mm, yeah, for sure. And I also think that like I was mentioning, culturally, it's just we're everywhere. Like, in not in a
Yes.
bad way, right? For instance, there's this gas station at the corner of my college campus, and I went there this the first I think week that I was there. I went to the gas station because I wanted some water because we went during break.
Hmm.
Um, and we didn't understand how the water system worked very well. We didn't know where the closest water fountain was. The perks of studying in the pandemic, right? So, what we did was we walked to this gas station, and I go there and I see Maggie on the shelves of a US gas station. It's Maggie. And then I find out that that gas station was actually owned by Indian Americans.
Hmm.
So by my last year of college, they started putting out home cooked Indian food that you could just buy whenever you wanted and for such reasonable prices. So I just think that when we are so afraid of finding our culture, we can calm down just a little bit because it's everywhere.
Yes. So, like you were psychology major and a writing major, but you might be having friends from different majors or from different background. So, like, how did you interacted with the students from other majors or backgrounds, and what helps the to foster such kind of community?
So first I'd start with most of the friends I made later on in college. So during my junior and senior year ended up being mostly psychology majors
Hmm.
because by your junior and senior year you're doing
Yeah.
all of these advanced level courses in your majors and you have no time to socialize outside of your classrooms. But I had in the first 2 years, I made a lot of friends who came from like such a fun set of backgrounds. Like we had a studio art, a friend who was doing studio art. So in one term, we attended their portfolio final project show. But then we also attended my friend's organic chemistry poster viewing thing. So
Hmm.
it's just such a, I mean, technically I come from both ends of the spectrum, right? Because psychology means that I do all of these sciencey stuff. I have poster presentations to attend, I have research papers to write, but I also have a very creative project where I'm doing my final portfolio. I'm putting together all of the writing I've done over 4 years.
Hmm.
I'm doing readings. And I think that's so much the beauty of a liberal arts background is that it prepares you for conversations with all of these people. Like if my
Yeah.
friend, like we all of us, including, generally in India, the perception is that studio art people cannot understand computer science, right? Except all of us were at this presentation that our friend was doing about computer science, and he did some really fancy project. And all of us at least understood portions of it. So I think that
Yeah.
with the way that most liberal arts colleges are structured, it makes those conversations so easy and so seamless, and also gives you so many ideas in terms of what you're working on. Like for me
Hmm.
and my friends, so three of us in my friend group are psychology majors, but we would gain so much insight into our own research, into our own methodology when we are talking to our science friends, when we're talking to our studio art friends. So
Hmm.
one of us did a very technical final project, but then my final project was testing how, um, getting people to do creative things for a set period of time helps improve their, improve various cognitive processes. So it's just more than being able to understand each other. I think that a liberal arts background really helps you meld all of your interests with your peers and look at your subject in such a unique perspective.
Yes, like I can I can see that because it's like I have a little bit like despite being a science major, I have a little bit interest in psychology. I just don't want to study it, but I'm just like, how does this thing works? Then I have my psychology friends to tell about that. So like I have a little bit of knowledge and they are there to explain it. So that creates a good bond which I can feel. And I also do that same thing, like telling them what is computer science, how what do we do and what are your perspectives about it. So it creates a perfect blend. honest.
Yeah.
And okay, so now apart from college, like what were your Next Genius experiences? Like, can you share your journey with the Next Genius program and what was the process like?
Absolutely. So I know I have talked to some of the people who still work at Next Genius, and I know that the process has changed slightly since I did it 5 years ago, which feels so crazy to say out loud. But so how our process worked is we had this screening test where we had to write this exam kind of thing. It was challenging, but I think they had the threshold really low or something because I thought I did really badly on that exam. So I should actually ask about that. Um, but so we had an exam and then we had to submit a video essay, which I think is still a thing. A video essay about yourself, your
Yes.
interests, why you want to go to that college. And then I submitted that with a lot of secondhand embarrassment. I hate recording myself. Um, so you can tell I've come a very long way having to do this. But so we had to do that, and then we had the group interviews, but our group interviews were in person. And having an I don't know how the virtual interviews feel, right? But having that in-person group interview was just such a surreal experience. I've told so many people about this, but it didn't feel like an interview. It didn't feel like at the end of this I have some high stakes decision coming. It just felt like, hey, sit down in this room with these 20 other people who come from similar backgrounds as you and have similar interests as you and just have fun. Because our activities were like, we had this moon landing exercise thing, which I think they might still do because it's possible to do virtually. I don't know if they do. But they had like a moon landing exercise where they give you a list of, I think, 15 or 20 items, and you have to list them in priority with how important are they to survive. It's a really fun psychology exercise which came back when I was in college. So it was really helpful. But we had to do that, and then we had to build like a tower out of spaghetti and marshmallows,
That is interesting.
right?
Like,
And
I missed that, but yeah.
And when I came back home, because I took a break from school to go do these interviews, and I came back home and they're like, "How was your scholarship interview?" And I'm just like, I built a tower out of marshmallows and spaghetti. And they just look at you baffled, right? And I think that whole Next Genius process is just baffling to me because it's not nerve-wracking. It is not, this life-ending thing, but it is a life-changing thing.
Yes.
And I that is my definition of it. It's life changing in a good way, whether you get through it or not. So when I was mentoring
Yes.
my Next Genius mentees, what I told them was this process is going to change you whether you get in or not, whether you go or not. No matter what outcome happens at the end of this, the process is just so, it just helps you become more confident in yourself. And I think that is what the whole 4 years of mine, including like all of the interviews, including going to Knox, all of that was just this huge confidence boost for me.
Okay. Like, yeah, I had also done the online interview, so I cannot relate, but I wish that I should have done the offline thing. So, like, how did the scholarship and the mentorship or support from the Net Genius impact your college experience?
So the scholarship was obviously life changing. I think all of us
Yes.
can agree that financial support through an education is top tier. Uh, I personally was the only way that I was involved with Next Genius because in our college we didn't talk very loudly about Next Genius when I went. Like I met a bunch of people, and then when I was graduating, I found out that they were also Next Genius scholars from previous year. So it was just it's a funny experience at the beginning. But I think now
Yes.
people talk about it a lot more. Like Devesh sir, he came and visited our campus last
Okay.
year, last spring, I think, if I'm not wrong. But he came over and, he had all of the next junior scholars, and we all sat down in the grass with him and had like a quick conversation with him. So it's just, I think now the next genius community is growing much more because there's a huge number of us on the Knox campus, at least right now,
Okay.
who are more, you know, open about, hey, I came from Next Genius. I was very open about it from the beginning. So I was an RA in my third year on
Okay.
Knox's campus, and two of my residents were actually Next Genius scholars themselves.
That is interesting.
So I think it just forms this really fun community when you do talk about it. So
Yes.
yeah,
Like like it forms a community, and like at least it helps you to socialize with the people who are the next genius scholars.
for sure.
It's easy to socialize with them then. So, like again, you graduated with high distinction. Congratulations for that.
Thank
And
you.
what were some challenges that you faced, and obviously your milestones during your college years?
So going and studying abroad actually comes with a huge set of challenges itself. I Maybe you face them, maybe you haven't, maybe you won't ever, and that would be great. But a set of challenges that is always really hard to avoid is the fact that you are going to be homesick, and being so far away from home is going to impact your mental health, is going to impact your physical health, and that is without a doubt going to impact your academics. It's without a doubt going to impact your ability to be present in the community, to make friends. And I think in the beginning it was definitely really challenging bridging that cultural divide, because as much as, like I mentioned earlier, it is not super hard to go from where we are right now, like growing up in India to understanding a global culture, because we have a pretty diverse community even
Yes.
wherever we are based in India. But I think placing yourself within that community in your college is really hard, because you want to be so many people at once, right? You want to stay true to who you are, who you were when you were in school before you came here, but you also want to be a whole new person. Because at least for me, I was not a very cool person in high school. I was a very, keep to myself, get good grades. Then when my mental health is bad, it's keep to myself, get bad grades. So it's just, you don't want to be that person because you want to be a whole new person, but you also want to be that person because you can't lose who you are. And then you can go through this whole identity crisis, which impacts your academics. For me, that's really what happened, is that during my first year, I wanted to be someone I was not. And then I tried too hard,
Hmm.
and then I failed. And then another challenge that is more entirely academic is that for me, the schools that I went to really stifled my ability to critically think and to be creative. Because every time that I thought slightly outside the box, saying, hey, maybe this isn't the answer, maybe there's another answer, especially in subjects like English lit, right? There
Yes.
is no objective answer in English literature unless you're asking me, what is this sentence? There is no objective answer. And you know that. You've studied in a US university,
Yes.
you understand that. But in an Indian school, God forbid you go against their answer key. God forbid. So I think I'd spent so many years stifling that, like, out of the box thinking. And then when I was in college, all of my professors demanded only out of the box thinking from me. In school, I was known as like a try hard for speaking too much in class, for engaging with the questions the teacher was asking. But then in college, I got bad grades if I didn't speak up in class. And it's just going between that felt like a huge pendulum, because I was like, I am still this student. I have been trained my whole life to be this student. Why are you asking me to go back to this person who got bad grades for being this person? I
Yes.
think that was definitely two of my most important challenges. In terms of milestones, I think So I'm gonna give you one subjective one. It's not, it's kind of objective, but it's also in my head slightly subjective. And then I'll give
Yes.
you an objective one. So I have this professor who I love. I adore her. She was my cognitive psychology professor. And she's just one of those professors who's like no nonsense. Like I was her TA. And
Hmm.
the way that she graded was just absolutely brutal. And getting an A in her class is an absolute nightmare to do. Like it's really hard to do. And then I think in my first paper that I submitted to her, like my first research paper, she gave me a B minus. And I was really horrified. I am not a B minus student. I have never been a B minus student, you know, and to get a B minus on a paper I worked really hard on was heartbreaking. So I like went through each of her comments and she would leave a lot of comments. That was the one good thing is that she'd tell you what she's thinking. So I went through
Yeah.
all of her comments and then she was my senior thesis advisor. And I think I got an A so easily on those papers. I was so proud of myself. So that was my subjective milestone, right? Because impressing a teacher or a professor who does not easily give you an A is just, there's no feeling like it.
Yeah, I can get that. I have did the same thing in last sem.
Mhm. It just feels so rewarding. It feels better than any other, like, even if I had gotten on the dean's list, it would not have felt as rewarding as getting that A.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then my objective one was that at the end of the 4 years, so each year the psychology department awards like their most promising. Okay, no, to rephrase because it's slightly long and I've been rephrasing it in my brain a lot. So it's the outgoing senior who has made the most positive impact on the psychology department in terms of like either participating in extracurriculars or being a TA, working for the department in some
Yeah.
way. And I used to TA for my professors a lot, and I was a psychology tutor. So I actually won that award at the end of my 4 years, which felt really rewarding as well.
Like I can see that you have utilized your 4 years a lot, like in the best way possible.
I tried. I did as many things as I could.
Yeah, that is the thing that like what I can say about the Indian students crave for. Like in in India, we are just forced to do academics, and if we are
Mm-hmm.
not focusing on academics, we are just not promoted to any other things.
Yes.
But that was the thing I also felt like in US, like you are doing academic, that's a whole other thing. That is important, but that will not affect your overall growth. Like
Mm-hmm.
participating in events, like if you are in dancing, if you are in running, if you are like in any kind of sports, in any kind of in fact extracurriculars, that would not affect that. So that is a really good thing which I like about this.
Yeah.
So like okay, so yeah, you have graduated last year, right? So like
Yes.
what have you been doing since your graduation?
Yes. So, shortly before graduation, someone I used to work very closely with, reached out to me, and not personally, but on a WhatsApp group that we had, reached out and said that there were some job opportunities available in India. So I now actually work as an admissions counselor for Texas Christian University, and I have been since last year, June, July.
It's fine. It's certainly fine. And congratulations for your job.
Thank you so much.
So, how did you secure your current opportunity?
So actually, the person who I work with is Devesh sir. So because I mentored a lot for next juniors during my time in college, I think I gained a really intricate understanding of what it takes for a student to apply to college, what the application process looks like. I would go slightly a step ahead. So generally the mentorship was limited to you know the scholarship itself, but sometimes when the students would reach out and ask me about application specific questions, I would answer them for them because, not everyone has a school counselor, not everyone has a guidance counselor that they
Yeah.
can talk to, not everyone has the money or resources to hire an IEC. So I think that generally I wanted to be helpful in the way that I could. And then I really found the admissions process extremely intriguing. So when I found out what the role was, I was really excited about it and I interviewed for it. And mostly, I think what really helped me is how many jobs I had during my time in college. It's just every every posting on Handshake, I was like, if this is interesting, I'm applying.
So you got your job through Handshake, or you were just applying for Handshake?
I was this job, the one that I'm working currently, actually I got through my network.
Oh, that is really cool. So can you walk us through the steps that led you there?
For sure. I think that for me it was genuinely just understanding my skill set and
Hmm.
seeing where I needed to improve upon. So during my first year of college, I applied to a position in our college library. Um, because at the time I had nothing except my classes going on. And then I think that kind of it makes it harder for you to, do
Like
your
to do
academics if that's
jobs?
all you have, because then you're not enjoying your academics anymore. It's something you're
Yes.
forced to do, and you don't have a sense of community because let's be real, not a lot of us are making friends in classes. I made maybe one friend while we were in class, and everyone else was because of some extracurricular, some job that I had. We met externally. Maybe we both liked Harry Styles and we wanted to go to the Harry Styles concert. So it
Hmm.
was like it was never about academics when you were making friends, and I didn't have a lot of strong friends when I was in my first year of college. And I think getting that library job really helped both professionally as well as personally for me. And then after my library job, it was genuinely just any job that was available and within my skill set. So I worked as, like I mentioned earlier, I worked as a peer tutor for psychology and psych statistics. I was a TA for three different courses, and two of them I did twice. So 5 times I was a TA. I volunteered for research assistant positions. I was a research assistant for two different labs on our campus, and I did a summer research assistant internship type of a thing. For the religious studies department, right? And I'm not even a religious studies student. I was like, this sounds interesting because it was a study about video games and religion and how video games and rituals are intertwined with each other. And it's just
Okay.
going back to that conversation
Yeah.
about how liberal arts colleges just make you think about the most
Yes.
crazy things in class. Um, so there was that, and then I worked as an editor, a creative nonfiction editor for Catch Magazine, which is one of our literary magazines on campus. And then in my position in the library, I would initially work on acquisitions, which is when you're bringing in new books and then putting them into the system and then doing the barcode stamping and all of
Hmm.
that. But then my role expanded over time. So I started working in circulation, which is the people who you go to get the books checked out and stuff. And then I also started working as a peer research assistant, which is like, I don't know if it's enough specific thing. I think there are other colleges that do it as well. It's just someone who sits at the front desk who you can go to and talk to them about any questions you have about your research study. And if it's within our realm, we help you. If not, send you to
Yes.
our research librarian. So we're like
Like
reducing the librarian's workload.
yeah, that thing is also present in our college.
Yes.
And one thing that caught my attention was the religious studies thing that you told just now. I'm going to just research about it after this.
Yes.
If it's
It
present
was
in
just,
my
it was
college.
so interesting, right? Because like,
Yeah.
I told my family, and it was a paid internship, by the way. It was
Oh
not
my God.
an unpaid internship either. It was like we got paid, and then for half of that time that we were getting paid for, we obviously had to do a lot of reading. We read a lot of philosophy stuff. We
Hmm.
read a lot of general philosophies about rituals and all of that. But for the other half of that first half, we were just playing video games. Our professor bought us video games to play.
So that is really cool. You are getting paid to increase your knowledge in religious things, and
Mhm.
after that, you are just getting paid to play games.
Exactly. It was just such a fun experience. And I think you take a little bit of knowledge from each of these experiences that you do, because
Yeah.
you're a research assistant, you're learning, how to work different systems. Like you have to learn
Yes.
tricks, you have to learn how to use whatever system this professor wants to use. Like for my cognitive psychology lab, we had to learn how to use this thing called psychopy to create the test on which students were going to be doing their cognitive tests. And it's just, you learn that technical element of what you'll need to do in a future job. But then with my library jobs, you learn the communication element of what you'll have to do in different jobs. And then with my peer tutoring, you learn how to, because different people come from different backgrounds, come from different amounts of knowledge, and you have to learn how to like equitably communicate different things with each person. So I think you take a little bit of a different thing
Hmm.
from each experience that you do. And I definitely think that that really helped in getting this job.
That yeah. Again, I'm going to search about this thing.
Fair.
Like while you were mentioning about jobs, you mentioned like networking. So how did you gain access to such a network?
Um, Once again, not to harp on the same thing over and over again, I'd
Hmm.
say take every opportunity that comes. If there's
Okay.
a mixer, a social, an event, an alumni networking event in your college, I didn't take advantage of the alumni networking opportunities. Like, if you have the opportunity to healthily join a fraternity or sorority in a way that, is not harming anyone, obviously,
Yeah.
we know that certain elements of fraternity and sorority life can be toxic, but the professional elements of being a part of a sorority or fraternity is really helpful because they have really strong alumni networks as well. And I know that a lot of people do get professional opportunities from those networking opportunities as well. So explore every opportunity you have. If there's someone who's coming in to give a talk into your college that is similar to what you want to study, go reach out to them. If
Okay.
there's a professor who researches what you want to study further, go volunteer to help them. It does not, to be honest, it does not matter if it's a paid experience or not.
Hmm.
And my personal opinion, because while it is important to take care of yourself, you are only in college for 4 years. You know, you can sleep after the 4 years are done. You can I just, not, once again, not to promote unhealthy habits, because I think that
Hmm.
taking care of yourself is super important. And if you're not recharging, and if you're not, practicing some amount of self care, you're going to burn out. And that is not helpful to
Yes.
anybody. But if you can do, let's say you leave 8 hours a day to sleep, for the rest of the day, try to do as much as you can. Any
Hmm.
opportunity that comes your way, think about how it could help you. And if it can, then don't say no, because I think that, like, putting yourself out there is such an important thing to do when you're in college.
Yeah. So, like, is there any piece of advice that you want to give to the college students, like how to use their resources effectively?
I would say definitely talk to your seniors about what exists. For instance, our college used to give us a HBO Max subscription for free, and I didn't know about it until my third year. And I was so annoyed. I was really annoyed. So when I was in RA, I made like an info sheet about all of the resources that we had on campus. And I was like, I'm just going to give this to all of my residents so that they find out about their HBO Max subscription now rather than 2 years later. Uh,
Yeah.
so talk to your seniors about what exists. For instance, something that I wish I knew first year was that our library has something called interlibrary loan, and I'm sure that most universities have it. It's a very common thing. But at least in Illinois, they have this thing called iShare, which is easier to use than interlibrary loan, because you can loan textbooks, you can, rent textbooks for the period of a term. You don't have to spend such massive amounts of money on textbooks. So I would say talk to your seniors, ask them what they do, talk to multiple seniors because some of them don't know what's going on. Talk to as many people as you can, ask them if you have a specific challenge, right? Like, if you're struggling, like I said, with textbooks, you're like, this is too expensive, but you can see that other people are not spending as much money on textbooks as you are.
Yes.
Just go ask them. If you have an issue, just ask, because I swear everyone in college is starved for social interaction. And in on my campus, nobody ever that you approached asking a question did not help. Everyone is so
Yeah.
so if you have a question, just ask.
Yeah, I can also see that I usually go to seniors to ask questions, and each and every senior is so helpful that I usually get help through seniors. So that is a really good resource. So, like, was there anyone, like a family member or mentor, who inspired you to apply to Next Genius?
No. So actually, to be honest, I went to my parents, saying that my parents are really supportive. Don't get me wrong. But I went to them saying I wanted to study in the US or the UK, and my parents looked at me and said, "Have you looked at the cost of attendance?" I looked at the cost of attendance and I was horrified. And then I was like, look, the US has really strong. That's when I dropped the UK plan. The UK does not have as strong scholarships as the US does generally. So I was like, I'm gonna do the US, I can handle it, I will get a scholarship. And I could tell my parents are really supportive, but you can tell when they're unsure that something is actually going to happen. So they looked so uncertain about it. So even throughout the process, they were like, okay, I'm glad you're having fun with this application process. And then I found Next Genius through my IEC. They sent me an email and said, I know you're looking for a full scholarship. These people offer full scholarships. They offer really strong scholarships, even like partially. So I went and did the interview because I wanted that scholarship because I told my parents that I would get it, and I just had to prove. I had to prove myself, I had to be like, I said I'd do it, guys. Here it is.
Okay, so it's like the things got aligned together.
Yeah, I'd for sure say that running into Next Genius was a very like um serendipitous moment for me because
Hmm.
you know when it was first sent to me, I was like, you mean these people are charging me only this much, only to write the exam, and it's a refundable cost, and
Yeah.
they're telling me that they can get me a full scholarship? This is a scam. I was so certain that Next Genius was a scam. And then I went on their website and you see alumni testimonials. You see what their alumni are doing right now. You see how many students are studying at each college and who is studying at what college. You can even click on their LinkedIn, I think, if I'm not wrong. And I was like,
Yes.
wait, there's so many people. This can't be a scam. And then I researched it more. And then I was like, this is great. So I think it was a very fate aligning moment for sure.
Yes. And like last but not least, finally, what is your advice or message to the students who are like upcoming juniors or like future like applicants for the next year or for any other colleges?
Okay. I would say, and this is something I used to say during my mentorship as well, and I have stayed very steady to it. It's made a huge impact in my life. I would say that this is a very multi-step process, and sometimes it's easy to get swept up in all of it and get stressed and forget the whole point, because at the
Yeah,
end of it, we all had a good journey. Like, yes, we got rejection letters from some places, we got acceptance letters, but no scholarships from some places. But it's such a fun process. And I think that in the stress of it all, we forget to have fun, because these essays that we're writing, the personal essays that we write about ourselves, the answers that we write to our common app questions, they're all such fun exercises if you forget about the fact that it determines where you're going to be for the next 4 years,
Hmm.
And so, what I would say is that through every step of the process, if you've submitted an application, if you've completed your essay, if you finished proofreading your essay, just do something little to celebrate.
Yes.
Because, like, go get an ice cream. Go cook your favorite food. Ask your mom to cook your favorite food. Maybe like order a pizza. I don't know. Whatever is like the good thing for you to do. Maybe you're staying away from social media. Give yourself an hour of scrolling time. Whatever it is that makes you feel like, hey, I have achieved something today, because you have.
Hmm.
Like, every step of the process is a step closer. And I think that if you don't celebrate each step, you can get very lost in the journey.
Yes. Like sometimes it's just tedious task and you need a break from that.
Yeah. And you need to
Okay.
remind yourself that you've made progress, Like,
Yes.
it's great if we had one of those progress bars in our brains. Like, we're 10% complete with this task. Like, you only have to do that 10 more times. Do you understand how impressive that is?
Maybe a future task for students like me, a computer science major.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So that were the questions that I wanted to ask. Thank you for your time
Of course.
and hope you have a great future.
Thank you so much. You